Okay, now my trip, my journey. Well, I had 10 days window to go on a vacation. I want an experience, God, to bring me closer to you. I told him that. And anyway, they said, you can't go down there. And I said, I'm going to meet people down there, I'll be okay and all that. Okay. I keep going, and everything is sort of taken from me. I had a radio that all of a sudden didn't work. I guess when you go down far enough, you don't get the waves. I had a cassette that broke, and in those days there wasn't a cell phone. So I'm going down, and I'm really out of it. I'm out of it on my feet, and then at 4:30 I collapse on a switchback trail on the side of a mountain. And I put my back against a tree, about 5 feet tall, to brace myself so I wouldn't slip down. And then I put my head between my legs, and I started to get the shakes. And I think, I'm going to die. And that's not so bad, because at least I'll be cool. And then I thought, oh my God, my daughter's wedding is in 8 days. I don't want to die. So I get to my feet, and I'm, barely up to my feet. And about 100 feet from me, maybe the end of the wall there, I see this ancient Indian woman, and something's wrong with the image. She's looking up the mountain. She's not looking in my direction, but I can see the furrows in her face. And I'm thinking, something's wrong here. And I, have my scientific brain going, and I'm thinking, well, maybe it's the waves of heat on the terrain. There's no waves of heat. So as I approached her, all of a sudden the image dissipates. And I go over this side of the mountain, and I hit a stream that's about this wide and about this deep. So I think, well, the best thing to do is just follow the stream to the Colorado River. So I'm shuffling along, and all of a sudden I fall in a hole in the middle of the river, and I'm up to here. And that refreshed me. So anyway, I get to my feet after that, and nobody's around, and I start going down, and I was really out of it. I didn't know. Things were blurring on me and everything else. And I start singing this song, "The Lord will take care of you in every way all of the day. The Lord will take care of you. He will take care of you." And I keep repeating it to myself, and I'm thinking, he's really taking care of me, isn't he? Well, anyway, that's one of the events. Then I come to a bush, and the bush has a thorn sticking out of it. And I was taking a little rest, and I'm thinking, I wonder how sharp that thorn is. Now that's the dumbest thing to add. So I'm going to test it. And I prick the end of my finger, and my finger swells up. And I'm thinking, this is the worst place to have something go wrong with your body. Okay, so I go a little bit further, and I see what looks like spinach, and I think, well, if I have to survive, I have spinach around here, so I was testing the spinach. Well, the spinach was some poisonous vegetable or something, because I had to lower my mouth to the water and just rinse out for quite a while until it stopped stinging. Well, anyway, 7:30 I hit the Colorado River, and I went in backwards, and I was holding on to a root, and it refreshed me. But that night, there were constant winds. Every 5 minutes, it would get hot and then cold, hot, cold, and I had wrapped a sheet around me. I had a sheet in my backpack, and I wrapped a sheet around me. And I saw up in the sky, I see my rescue plane, this light coming. And it gets so far, and then it go back. And I'm yelling and screaming and, for it and all that. I later realized what it was. I was dehydrated, and I had strabismus, and my eye was jumping. And if I closed one eye, then it didn't, that image, that so-called star or starship or whatever, wasn't jumping at all. Anyway, 4:30, I didn't sleep a wink. 4:30, I think, I've got to get back up that Grand Canyon, you know, the thing. But I remember the guy telling me it takes twice as long to get up. And my shoes were all ripped. They were open, and, you know, my feet were sticking out of my shoes and all that. And the drop-offs on these trails are 1,000 feet. And, you know, I was worried about twisting my leg and all that. Anyway, I got to a spot that I could see the rocks. I mean, I saw the ancient Indian woman. But I saw these two big boulders in a creek running through, and the creek was about this wide. And I thought, I'm going to hunker down here. So for the next 5 days, I was hunkered down there. But I would come out every night and do my eating and all that, but I'd live in the crevices of rocks during the day and all that. Well, a lot of things happened. I was scared to death of the scorpions. I saw a couple snakes, but they didn't look like rattlers or anything like that. I saw another wondrous thing. There was a family of mountain goats that came down to drink water after the sun had set on the rim of the canyon. And they came down one by one. The teenagers first, then the mother, the teenagers, then the babies, then the mother, and then the father. And the teenagers would take a step. That same step would be taken by the baby. They'd all make the same, you know, hit the same rock. And it was such a beautiful thing. And I thought, boy, nature is amazing. It's God's hand. It's just amazing. And by the way, they had such acuity of sight that I'd test them. I'd go like this with my hand, and now I'm like 2 football fields away from them. And I went like that, and they'd all turn and see me. It was amazing. Then I'd have these hallucinations at night. You've heard of a babbling brook? Well, in a babbling brook, I thought I was being attacked by a mountain lion. It became a mountain lion. I was half awake and all that. And I woke up, and I thought, I've got to get out of here. I'm going to get attention one way or another. So I started a fire. And all of a sudden, everything was so dry there. It got so bad. I was like a dog. I put my feet like this and put sand on that, and finally put the fire out. And I fell back exhausted. And I thought, you know, you're the klutz of the canyon, Lederer. You know, you're really bad news. You know, everything you do is ridiculous and all that. Well, anyway, the big thing that really, bigger than seeing the ancient Indian woman and all that, was the 5th night. The 5th night, I am mad at my family. I think they're trying to teach me a lesson. They're not coming after me because I really goofed. And I'm at fault, you know, and all that. And even God, you're trying to teach me something, God. And my first response was this anger. And then all of a sudden, for some strange reason, and this was so powerful, I felt, outside of the remorse, I felt that my family really loved me. I mean, you take your family for granted. And I felt this penetrating love, and that God loved me. It just was a change of mood completely. And, you know, I broke down and cried and all that stuff. And that was powerful. Anyway, 6th day comes, and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I see a helicopter come over, and I think, I'm going to be rescued. And by the way, I'm naked, because my body had turned to, like, dandruff. I was dried out and all that. I would take dips every 30 minutes and be dry. And I used to get air. I'd keep my nose close to the running stream, because it was like putting your head in an oven in that extreme heat. So anyway, I see this helicopter, and I'm waving my pants at him and everything else. And nobody comes. So I took my backpack and I climbed this boulder, and I sat. It was so hot I had to sit on my backpack, and I waited, and I waited, and I waited, and nobody came. So all of a sudden, I had this stone that somebody had given me, a backpacker saying, "This will bring you luck." And I take the stone, and I think I'm really going to die because I only had half a pack of dried food left and a Gatorade, half a Gatorade scoop left. So I take the stone and I throw it, saying, you know, join your buddies there. And I had given up, but a funny thing happened there. I had this wonderful release. Instead of having fear, I felt God's presence. It was palpable. It was palpable. So anyway, at 7:30 comes and nobody's around, and I'm just sitting on the top. And I see this guy in short pants come up the trail that was below the rock. And I said, are you a hiker or a ranger? And the guy mumbles something, and he says, are you Bill Lederer? And I said, I think I am. And he says, stay where you are. Anyway, I'm waiting for the guy to come up, and he comes up, and I'm saying, I'm sorry, I put you together. He says, look, he says, a young couple died here 3 months ago. He says, you're lucky you're alive, but your age helped you. And I said, why? He says, when you're old like you stick in one spot and you don't go looking around. You let people come get you. And he says, and if there was a second person with you, he'd go off and he'd die and you'd be there and it'd be a very bad situation. So then he says, there's a helicopter pad. You know, he said, there's a helicopter that'll pick you up. We'll get some of these guys with stretchers and they'll take you to the pad. I said, no, I think I can walk it. So we walked to the helicopter pad, and the helicopter pad, the helicopter comes, and we take off, and we land at the rim. And there at the rim is the world press, you know, all of the programs and all that. And my son is there. My son he had come in from Washington, D.C., and my nephew, who was in the other extreme, he was from San Diego. My son had a jockstrap and my shorts, and that was for my smell, because they were going to send these special dogs down to get me that night at 10,000 a night. And anyway, he saw me and he says, "Dad, you look like Charles Manson," because my eyes were going every which way. I had this beard and everything else. He was really upset about it. And he starts to cry and all that. And all of a sudden, they take me, the rangers and whatever they call themselves, the park rangers and the policemen, and the newsmen are trying to follow me, and they bring me into this little room and they start giving me these cocktails that tasted terrible. Gosh, but they were all vitamins to restore me and all that. And then they bring me out to the press again. And, but before that, they said, you know, what happened? Tell us all that. And I told them about this ancient Indian woman. And one of the rangers says, "Oh, that's Indian Gardens. That's where the Indians bury their dead." And so the back hair of my head, this bald head, went up. I remember that. I got a chill. And then they asked me, why did I do this stupid thing? And a policeman answered for me. This is a guy sticking the microphone in my face. He says, why did you do it? I said, I start to answer, and he says, the guy's a marathon runner. He was testing his endurance. And I said, well, that's partially it. I said, and he says, well, what's the other part? And I said, I was seeking God. And he said to me, well, did you find him? And I said, at times. And that was the truth of the situation. At one time, I feel completely abandoned, and then the next moment I would feel God's presence. I mean, really, like I've never felt before.